You hit it right on the head. If he keeps going, and you're paying for hope. You're paying for hopefully
Yep.
he'll take that next step. And you got to look at it like this also. He's going to be your highest paid player by far.
Mhm.
And the question I would ask Pistons fans, do you have faith Miles Bridges will be that marquee player for you when you're making runs deep in the postseason? Like that's and I'm not
I,
saying they're going to do that in the next 4 years. You hope they do, but they're definitely going to be in the playoffs soon. And
yeah,
Miles
and
Bridges is going to be a
ideally,
big part
Jeff,
of that.
I would tell you, in my opinion, at the peak of this lineup being at its most successful, Miles Bridges would be the third or fourth option. What is going on? I want to welcome you from half court for today, Monday, June 27th. I am your host, Sean Murphy, alongside my man, Jeff Ifrady. Jeff, your background is so fresh. Holy, that green screen's nice,
Dude,
buddy.
I'm just over here chilling. Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, dude. I mean,
Heck
guys holding up the
yeah.
jerseys. I mean, with the boys.
Dude, we got the Pistons core right now, dude. I got Caden Sadiq behind me. You can hardly see him, but I mean, look at that, baby. That's the Pistons' future right there, man. That's what we're talking about. But it's actually not what we're talking about because today, Jeff, we are past the NBA draft, and we released a video on Friday talking about how we think the Pistons won the draft. Now let's talk about other ways the Pistons can improve because this upcoming week is the beginning of NBA free agency. And with that, Jeff, reports suggest that the Detroit Pistons could be the team to swoo away Miles Bridges from the Charlotte Hornets. And in addition, we even have Miles Bridges' friend posting on Instagram the following caption. And I quote, "Forgot I put the shrooms in my food, man. It got me tripping. If Charlotte don't drop the bag, we go into the Pistons." And then he later edited the caption. We have our guy Miles Bridges editing his Twitter bio just to say it's me, removing the Charlotte Hornets, and even posting a picture of LaMelo on his story with the salute emoji. So, Jeff, a lot of things coming out of the Bridges camp. Do you think this is just to get the Hornets to be sure to pay the bag? Do you think this is them just trying to get them scared? Or do you think there's something legitimate going on here?
I think both. Both can be true. I think part of it is he wants Charlotte to pay him, but another part of it is he wants to come to Detroit. And I want to tell Pistons fans, like, welcome. This is what it looks like when you have a young, attractive
Yep.
core. You're gonna have guys that want to come play with Jaden and Cade and Sadiq and all these guys. For me personally, though, it's tough because we've always been saying this on these videos, Sean, like this free agency class is overrated. But at the same time, when you really look down, especially post draft, they got Jalen Duren. Miles Bridges makes the most sense. But my thought process, and I'll read off a quote from one of James Edwards' articles, and I agree with it. Per sources, Detroit is eager to continue to build back towards playoff contention with the aforementioned young core, and the Pistons are expected to fully use a majority of their remaining cap space to add multiple veteran pieces rather than just one big swing this offseason, per sources. And that's right there is my beliefs. I would much rather take this cap money. And you saw the Pistons are now interested in Malik Monk, whoever else is in free agency. You got to add shooting. I think that's number one. I'm not really on the go get Miles Bridges train. I think if you get him, you sign him to a max contract, which is like 4 years, well over $100 million. You got to look at it also like people were so, hesitant to give Jeremy Grant an extension. And I'm not saying Miles Bridges could be better than Jeremy Grant. I'm just saying like looking at Jeremy Grant and saying, well, why would we pay a guy, he hurts the development of our young core, but then they want to go pay $30 million to Miles Bridges. It's a weird thought process for me.
Right.
I'm not completely sold on Miles Bridges. There's things I have question marks about, like his love for the game of basketball. I get he got it tremendously better, but I'm seeing a lot more posts of him outside. Now he has a rep career, which, listen, I applaud any basketball player. You want to go pursue other things. I have no problem with that at all. But the lean, you saw the posts come out a couple months ago, him with the double cup and the blunt. Like, we're building a young core in Detroit that really loves basketball, wants to win. These guys' number one thing on their mind is getting the city of Detroit back on the map. Getting Miles Bridges, and I'm not saying he's going to come and mess everything up, but to pay a guy $30 million for 4 years, you just spent time clearing all this cap space up. Yes, I'm a little hesitant. All right, don't blame me. But definitely the Pistons are going to be talking to Miles Bridges. I know he's from Detroit. He's from Michigan. He went to MSU. So I could see why he would want to be, play for the Detroit Pistons. But for me, Sean, I'm a little hesitant. But again, I get why Troy Weaver would have these conversations. He's the best free agent available. I mean, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Great analysis, Jeff, and that's totally legitimate. Now let's talk about why Miles Bridges should be a Detroit Piston. And let me be the devil's advocate just for 1 second, because I'm going to be transparent and upfront with you. I think that's the route the Pistons should take, is getting veterans as well. I think that is the route that is probably what's going to happen. It's probably the route that's going to make the most sense. However, if Miles Bridges becomes available, I think it's very valid for Troy Weaver to look at this guy and say, we just might have to take the swing. I mean, let's just look at him let's just look at the prospect for what he is. Let's look at him. First of all, a reminder about Miles Bridges. He's 24 years old, insanely young. And in his short career so far, we've seen Miles Bridges elevate his game to a 20-point-a-game scorer, and in addition, stretch his shooting beyond the three-point arc. Now, obviously, this past year, we saw his three-point numbers go down from a percentage standpoint, but we did see his attempts go up from a volume standpoint. So there were things to be optimistic about. His three-point shot still isn't where I would want it to be, and he's still hovering around a 35% three-point shooter, which isn't terrible with everything else that he brings, because Miles Bridges is just an athlete. And if you're talking about the possibility of a lineup of Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, Miles Bridges, Sadiq Bey, and Jalen Duren, that might be one of the most athletic teams in the entire NBA. In addition, with the fact of what they could do defensively, the versatility, the length, everything that they could do, the physicality that they would bring on a night-to-night basis. Now, here's my worry with that lineup. And let's just go right to it, because this should be everyone's worry with this lineup. The shooting. Where's the consistent shooting going to come from? Because Jaden Ivey, we need to see him grow his shot. Cade Cunningham, we need to see him grow his shot. Sadiq Bey literally just broke the Pistons franchise record in three-point shooting, and he still needs to get more consistent with his shot. So that's my biggest concern with that lineup. I think with Troy Weaver, you have to, at the very least, keep your eye open, because the ceiling of that lineup, in my opinion, is pretty high. And the defensive ability of that lineup could be really good. And I think Miles Bridges in Detroit, I think you talk about your concerns, and I think they're valid. But maybe this is a system where he can zone in and focus more on basketball. Maybe in Charlotte, maybe he's focused on all the other things because of the culture that they have, and because of what they're bringing. Detroit, just in my opinion, has that culture established. Like, we just saw Charlotte the past 2 years get blown out by 30, 40 points in a play-in game. That's not going to happen with this Pistons group when they get there. It's just not. So in my opinion, I'm not saying that I think the Pistons should go after Miles Bridges. However,
it's enticing.
It's enticing, and solely from the consumption and the ability to play NBA 2K, I would play that game nonstop. I would play as the Pistons literally all the time. I wouldn't be able to work a functioning job and be an adult, because I would just be playing as them all the time in 2K. That would be so fun. But let's be practical, Jeff, because like you said, first of all, it's important to note his production came in a contract year. And anytime you see that kind of jump in production in a contract year, it brings you pause, because, Jeff, like you said, if you have concerns about a player's love of the game and their passion and what they bring to it, that immediately brings me pause, because we signed guys to those kinds of contracts that had that type of wavering passion. Same as Andre Drummond. And
also
the last thing we need to do when we start these rebuilds is to give those kinds of contracts. So is Miles Bridges the guy that we should be giving a max contract? Maybe not. But it is also valid to say that if he does keep going in this direction, Miles Bridges is going to be an all-star. This episode of From Half Court is brought to you by Manscaped. When we talk about post players, there is few better players in the restricted area than our friends over at Manscaped. With great products such as the Lawnmower 4.0 with skin safe technology, the Weed Whacker, their deodorants, lotions, and more, Manscaped is unrivaled when it comes to the men's hygiene game, serving over 8 million balls worldwide. That's a lot of testicles, ladies and gentlemen. So, if you're finding yourself in need of Manscaped products, be sure to go to manscaped.com and use code HALFCOURT at checkout because that can get you 20% off plus free shipping. Our friends at Manscaped sent us these products, and I can tell you that they are absolutely for real. I have been absolutely satisfied and in love with their entire product line, from boxers, t-shirts, the Lawnmower 4.0 to the Weed Whacker ear and nose trimmer. You can really not go wrong. Be sure to go to manscaped.com and use code HALFCOURT at checkout for 20% off plus free shipping. Thank you again to our friends at Manscaped for sponsoring this video. Like,
Yes.
if he keeps going in this type of development, he's gonna be an all-star. It's just, is he going to keep going? That's the question.
You hit it right on the head. If he keeps going, and you're paying for hope. You're paying for hopefully he'll take that next step. And you got to look at it like this also. He's going to be your highest paid player by far.
Mhm.
And the question I would ask Pistons fans, do you have faith Miles Bridges will be that marquee player for you when you're making runs deep in the postseason? Like that's, and I'm not saying they're going to do that in the next 4 years. You hope they do, but they're definitely going to be in the playoffs soon. And Miles Bridges is gonna be a big part of that.
Ideally, Jeff, I would tell you, in my opinion, at the peak of this lineup being at its most successful, Miles Bridges would be the third or fourth option. Like, that's the thing. Like, if I'm telling you, like, as far as how I would envision that Pistons lineup being at its most successful, it would have to be at Cade being the first and second option.
And
So like you said, Miles Bridges being that type of money guy, having that type of contract, when he might not even be he might not even be our third most important player on the offensive end if he comes to Detroit, because of the ceiling that Sadiq has. Because, like you've brought up before, do we think Miles Bridges has a higher ceiling than Sadiq? I don't know if he does.
Yeah, and the point, why would we extend Jeremy Grant if he's going to be the third best player on our team when we're making runs? Like, that was the same argument we made for Jeremy Grant. That is the point I'm trying to make. So with people talking about Miles Bridges, all I would ask is just have caution, because you look at the Pistons. I know it's exciting. We have the most cap space by far in this free agency class. There's not really any competitors as terms of teams. And that's why I understand why people get more excited, because we have a real chance to land these marquee guys. But you have to look at it realistically and from a business perspective. Like, if you're Troy Weaver, like that quote by James Edwards, that's big, because maybe Troy sees it the same way we do. But who knows? I mean, you're going to be in these conversations. I don't think that's a question. Troy's going to be interested in DeAndre, and he's going to be interested in Miles Bridges. But the question is, do you put that pen to the dotted line and have Miles Bridges sign a 4-year, 130, whatever it is, plus $1 million deal? For me, of course, I'm going to be a little hesitant, because you talked about for the love of the game of basketball. And I don't think Miles Bridges, like, the Charlotte Hornets are ahead of where we are as a team.
Yep.
Why aren't the Hornets being more aggressive and trying to re-sign him? Like, if they think he's that dude, they're hesitant. Apparently, him and Miles and the Hornets organization aren't really coming into agreement with an actual contract. That concerns me as well, because all I know the Hornets to be are a franchise that overpays everybody.
Yep.
And they won't pay for Miles Bridges. That's where I'm a little concerned. But again, players that want to be in Detroit, I love that. And Miles Bridges is that guy. So I can respect that. But if we're being objective and we're taking out the city of Detroit and the ties, and we're looking at the player, I'm not completely sold. I really am not.
Without a doubt. And you just hit it right on the money there, Jeff. We're going to be adding a marquee player in the next couple of years. Like, it's not an if, it's a when. We will be adding a marquee player to the Detroit Pistons. One of these names that you are seeing play right now, that you watch, that you recognize as an all-star, will be a Detroit Piston. But the question is, who is it going to be? Will it be the right guy? And that is what Troy Weaver is going to be judged on, in addition to these draft picks that he made. Because, like you said, if he brings in a Miles Bridges, welcome to Detroit. That's exciting. highlight reel player, you damn better lead to winning. Because what we're seeing in Charlotte right now, even with his elevating in team production, the Hornets almost look worse than they did a year ago, which is crazy because Miles Bridges brought his game up significantly.
Great point.
So
Great point.
it's just things like that, like you said, there's just so many contingencies, so many things. But again, maybe it's the environment he's in. Maybe being in Charlotte is a place that isn't a great basketball culture. So maybe I bring it back to coming back home, being in Michigan, being close to where you went to college, being in a place with Troy Weaver and Dwayne Casey, and in an environment with Cade. Because let's be honest, who's going to hold you more accountable, Cade Cunningham or LaMelo Ball?
Well, that's true. It's gonna be Cade, obviously.
So there's things like that where there are as many things that make me go, that's intriguing, as that make me go, that's terrifying. And that's the thing about the deal that gives, it's like the dual of fate. It's like the duality of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's how I feel as well. And with Cade, like, and I've saw this kind of talked about on Pistons Twitter as well. Like, if you sign Miles Bridges to a 4-year deal, it doesn't really, mess with you extending Cade Cunningham because, 4 years. I get all of that. It kind of fits the timeline.
Right.
But again, you have to look at it in big picture. You have to sell something to Cade. Like, and I'm not saying Cade's going to leave. I'm just saying realistically, that's what every team does to their franchise player. You have to sell something to him. And if it's Miles Bridges for the next 4 years, and let's say it doesn't work out, he's getting paid $30+ million. That's a tough contract.
Right.
So
what I would say
is have caution.
What I would say on the flip side of that, as we're ending the video, you do have to sell something to Cade. You are absolutely right. But what I would also say is that it might give Cade more reason to be excited to see that the Pistons are at least willing to take shots and are trying to make moves to maximize Cade's time. Because in Cade's 2 short years, the Pistons have been very active. So with that, what do you think? Let us know in the comment section down below. Should the Pistons sign Miles Bridges? And do you think that we have seen the apex of Miles Bridges' game? Let us know in the comment section down below. But that is going to do it for today. Jeff, we're going to have so much more content talking about NBA free agency, talking about these draft prospects that we just got, the summer leagues right around the corner. There's going to be so much people are going to want to be tuned in and staying in for. So seriously, be sure that you're tuned in. Be sure you're staying here, and we will catch you next time from Half Court. Be sure to subscribe.